Hi everybody who's coming in. It's good to see you all. Thank you for being here. Um, I think just in the interest of time and because we are recording this, I'll go ahead and get started. So, welcome and I guess it's still morning. Good morning. My name's Ellie Burns. I am the Senior Director of Nonprofit Relations here at the Community Foundation and very excited to tell you a little bit more about our For Impact Leaders program today. So, I'm going to start by just telling you For Impact Leaders. That is another term for the nonprofit sector. So we're making an impact in many lives and in many ways throughout our community. So when we started this journey of developing the program 5 years ago, we decided we needed to give it a name that really reflected the importance of our amazing For Impact sector. So For Impact Leaders, I'm going to dive in today. I'm going to tell you all about it. But if you've got questions as we go, feel free to unmute and ask them. You can throw them in the chat box and we'll do our best to keep an eye on them there. This is really about a chance for you to get to know more about the program and determine whether or not it's the right time for you to consider applying. So thanks again for being here and thanks again for your interest. So For Impact Leaders was really a response to a need that we heard in the community. As many of you who work in nonprofits likely know, it's very common for nonprofit professionals to enter maybe as a direct service provider. And if you stay with an organization, or even if you move around with like organizations, you can often move up in leadership roles. But unfortunately, not all of the organizations in our community have the capacity to step back and really provide professional training for their employees. So that's really where we're leaning in here, a leadership opportunity specifically for nonprofit professionals. This is a 9-month cohort, and I'll get more into the details about that. And we really just want to support nonprofit professionals, whether that's in learning about your professional skills it takes to lead a nonprofit, the personal leadership skills that it takes, and then the third piece of this is really about developing a network with your peers, with the presenters, and as we're in year 4, with the alumni who've gone through the program. All right, Barb, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. So when we decided to develop this program, we realized we could not do this just through the expertise of the Community Foundation. We really needed to bring in individuals who are working in various capacities within the sector. So we developed an advisory committee. It has changed a little bit. We've tried to include the voices of individuals who've gone through the program over the years. So you can see the list of individuals that are currently on the committee. We've got current executive directors, we've got consultants, we've got people in a variety of different organizations and roles in the nonprofit organizations. So this is our 2026 advisory committee, and we are so appreciative of them and their insight. They help design the curriculum. They also do evaluations midway through the program just to get the voice of the participants and see if there's anything we should celebrate or think about changing. And then they are the committee that selects the upcoming cohort. So we just say thank you to them. Here are just some pictures from over the years of sessions and of the various groups. We'll talk a little bit more later in this session about how we select cohort participants. But one of the things that we really try to consider is, you as a participant, but also the group as a whole. So we've got small organizations, large organizations, people working in marketing and development, people in that executive director role. We try to just make sure that there's a variety of voices represented, whether that's, length of time in the sector, again, role, age, demographics. We just want to make sure that there's a variety of voices because you'll learn just as much from each other as you will our presenters. Okay, so I'm going to sort of frame today's session as the who, what, why, when, how, and then again, we'll have time for questions at the end. So let's start with the who. who are we looking for? Who should consider applying to the program? We accept somewhere between 12 and 16 cohort participants each year. We also identify two alternatives. So if you're not selected to participate in the program, it's possible that you'll be identified as an alternate. And if someone for some reason can't participate, then we would reach out to you and invite you. We would do that before the first session. Once we have our first session in January, we no longer will invite alternates to participate. We would encourage you to apply the next year. We're looking for individuals who have 3 or more years of professional experience in the nonprofit sector. We would love it if you hold or have potential to hold an area of influence within your organization. Obviously, we are looking for individuals who are committed to their own professional leadership journey. The fact that you're here right now today to learn tells me you likely all are. But this is really about the individual. And it's the opportunity to take some best practices back to your organization. But we don't necessarily focus on your organization. It's really about you. We're looking for individuals who have the bandwidth for and interest in expanding their skill set around purpose-driven leadership. We really lean into that idea of being a purpose-driven leader. You'll see it in the application questions. So hopefully that resonates with you. We definitely emphasize the importance of networking. I mentioned that earlier, and you'll probably be tired of hearing me say that by the end of this session. But we want individuals who want to develop a strong network of colleagues. And so there is an element on our participants to take the initiative to reach out to each other, to presenters. Everyone who presents during the cohort has agreed that they would love it if participants reach out and ask to grab coffee or have a conversation. So we really encourage that. We want you to walk away from the 9 months having someone you can turn to if and when you've got questions or challenges or celebrations. It's very important that if you're not in the role of the executive director, you have this full support of your executive director. If you're in that role, then we would ask that you have the full support of your board chair. I mean, you will be away from the office 1 full day every month for 9 months. And so we want to make sure that your organization and your teams are aware and supportive of that time. So now we think about what is this program all about? So again, it's 9 months. It's nonprofit professionals that are all dedicated to increasing their leadership competencies. We are focused on the development and engagement of knowledgeable leaders within the greater Des Moines community. So again, we're looking for full-time nonprofit employees in the greater Des Moines community. This is really an individualized learning experience. I mean, we talk about things like budgeting and advocacy and strategic planning, and that's going to look different sometimes within your role and within your organization. So again, it's really focused on you and your leadership abilities and the opportunity to take that back and implement it within your organization. This is personal development that can be translated to leading purpose-driven work. And it's an opportunity, again, to develop collaborative relationships and learn from colleagues across the sector. So the actual cost to participate in this program is about $2,000 a person, but we've received a generous donation. And so the tuition for participants is $250. That will include everything. You do receive a binder, any additional materials, team building experiences, mentoring, program facilitators, all of that is included. I don't think it says it. Lunches, food, breakfast, that's all included in the $250 tuition. That said, we know that could still be a financial barrier to participating. And if that's the case, we have scholarships available. So you'll see in the application, it really just asks, are you interested in a scholarship? And if that tuition is a barrier to participating, then say yes. If maybe you can cover half of the tuition, but you couldn't cover the full, it also asks what level of scholarship that you're interested in. If you select that is in no way a barrier to your consideration as a participant. We want to make sure that that we're elevating this opportunity to everybody in the nonprofit sector. And so please don't hesitate if that is going to be a barrier for you to join the cohort. So each month we have an overarching topic, and all of the sessions sort of relate to that topic. So we start by talking about personal leadership. We'll do a personality assessment. We've been doing Strengths Finder. We've done Myers-Briggs in the past. So really sort of leaning into that personal leadership. Where are your skills, and maybe where do you have gaps in your leadership expertise? The next month we come around to executive leadership. So we start to talk about, what does it look like to create a strategic plan for your organization? What does it look like to establish a budget? Really getting into some of that nitty-gritty of leading a nonprofit organization. We cover influence and advocacy. From reality of advocating for policies and advocating to elected officials in our community about the important work you're doing, and influence. How are you influencing decisions in your organization, the nonprofit sector as a whole, systems? So we dive into that one month. Strategy is another month. Strategic planning and just thinking about strategy as a leader is sort of ongoing and evolving. So we come back to that. Assessment and evaluation, we tackle program assessment, organizational assessment, resource development. This is our month when we talk about fundraising and remind you that everyone that works in nonprofit is a fundraiser. Communication is one month. We think about storytelling, whether that's to market your organization, to market yourself. How are you communicating the mission of the work that you're doing, but also your personal mission? And then dynamic problem solving. So that has looked a lot of different ways, a lot of different years, but really sort of trying to take all of those pieces that we've learned and think about how do we implement them. The other little box there says journey, and that's, I think, one of the favorite sessions that we do throughout the 9 months. We take the opportunity to explore the journeys of various executive directors in our community. So they come in for about a half hour and we just ask them questions about their professional journey. And you, of course, can imagine that none of them go in a straight line. They're all a little bit zigzaggy. And so it's a great chance to just learn about them, meet them, and hear connections with likely your own professional journey. So maybe you're asking, why should I consider, is this right for me? So if you want to build confidence in your personal leadership abilities, you want to establish some awareness of the competencies of a personal driven leader, you want to think about some strategies for tactical organizational leadership, and you want to deepen relationships with your fellow nonprofit leaders and colleagues, then this program is likely a great fit for you. Again, we've gone through 4 years of programming. I know that all of the participants would say this is well worth the time commitment. Sometimes it can seem like a day away from the office might be a barrier, but the time that you're spending learning and really establishing your leadership skills is very, very well worth it. So the applications will be up and available as soon as we're done with this webinar. Maybe give us a little bit of time because we want to include this recording in the link. But they'll be available today. They are due on Friday, August 28th by noon. So we ask that you get to work on it quickly because you do need to submit a letter of support from your executive director or your board chair, and I'll go into that more in just a minute, but we don't want you to wait till the last minute for sure. Again, we'll do our best to notify participants and alternates by Friday, September 25th. That's our target date. And I don't see any reason we can't meet that, but that's sort of an estimated date. Once you are invited to apply or to participate, you have about a week to let us know. Sometimes things come up, roles change, expectations in your role changes. So if it no longer works, then we completely understand. That's why we have those alternates as well. So we'll just give you about a week to confirm that you can participate, and then we can make a formal announcement for the 2027 class. We'll do a kickoff social on December 8th here at the Community Foundation, so you have a chance to meet your fellow cohort participants. And then we officially start on the fourth Tuesday of each month we meet. So on January 26th is our fourth Tuesday. We meet roughly 8:30 to 4. 8:30 is a consistent start time. The end time, sometimes we're a little earlier than that. We really try not to go past 4. But you can plan on, again, the bulk of your day will be here and in the session. All right, so the application has a few pieces. It's got like a SharePoint form that's just going to ask a variety of questions about you, your organization, time in the sector, basic things that you likely can just click through and will know. And then there's also an application letter. And here are the questions that the letter asks you to address. So my recommendation would just be to use these as a heading. We do not need a novel, so we just ask that you don't exceed 1,000 words. We're not judging these based on length, but really on whether or not we're hearing that you can address these questions. So the questions are, what are the leadership capacities in which you have strengths and those that you have opportunities for growth? What do you hope to get out of this experience? In what ways have you worked to expand professional collaborations throughout your career within the nonprofit sector? How would you characterize a purpose-driven leader? And then what unique contributions will you bring to the cohort? So again, each of those questions, less than 1,000 words total. But we just ask that you really help us get to know who you are and what you'll bring to this group. I mentioned this earlier, but we do ask that you submit a letter of support. If you are in the executive director role, then that would be from your board chair. If not, then that would be from your executive director. Again, this doesn't need to be a lengthy letter. We're really looking at, do you have the support of this individual to be away from the office? And do they really see that you're interested in developing those leadership competencies, whether they're professional competencies or personal competencies, or both, obviously. And we really encourage participants after each month to sit down with their executive director and talk about the various things that they've learned. So we just want them to know that you're participating, and we want to ensure that we have their full support. So I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but just as a reminder, we're really looking at 3 different selection considerations. We're obviously looking at your individual criteria. So we're reading your essays. We're trying to understand if you are the right fit for this program, if you are invested in the time and energy that it takes to be a successful participant. But we're also looking at your organization's criteria and the service sector in which you work. We want to make sure we have small organizations, large organizations, human service organizations, organizations that work with youth. We would just want to have a variety of different organizations, individuals, viewpoints represented. And it just really makes for a more robust cohort and better conversation when we're going through the various sessions. So we always say, it's really about you, but it's about the whole group as well. So we never want anyone, if you're not selected for the cohort, to feel like it's a personal decision. Sometimes it's about the makeup of the group. But definitely hope that you'll all consider applying and would love to have you all. So I've talked a lot. I just wanted to pull this slide up that kind of is a review of everything I've shared. The who we're looking for, what the program is all about, why you might consider applying, the when, which is pretty timely and important right now, and then how, the application, the letter of support. And so you would, and then it's not on here, but we also ask for a copy of your resume. You will upload that as part of the application too. So we've got a couple quotes from past participants. Again, I would say we do evaluations at the end of each day, and then we do evaluations midway through the program for current participants and our alumni. And we just always hear really, really good feedback. I think everyone who's gone through the program would say, do it. It's a ton of fun. You learn a lot about you, about nonprofit leadership. Um, there is not a lot of outside work. So if that is a consideration that you have, really your time commitment is the hours that you're with the group each month. There will be a handful of times, like I mentioned, we take Strengths Finder assessment, so you'll take that outside of class time. Sometimes presenters will ask me to share a brief survey just so they can ensure that their session is really addressing the needs and the questions of the group. But I would say it's very minimal outside of class time. So I would not consider that as a barrier if that's on your radar. So there's my contact information. I'm always more than happy to answer any questions. If you've got anything following up that you're not comfortable asking in the group,